Hi, this is Naomi with Sword and Steel, and today we're going to be checking out the Cadia Stands army kit for Astra Militarum for Warhammer 40,000. Or Kill Team, I suppose. Games Workshop gave this to me early, and besides a nice new codex, we have 2 Cadian shock troops, 1 Cadian command squad, 1 Sentinel, which could be the Armored Sentinel or the Scout Sentinel, and an ordinance battery, which consists of 2 models. We are going to check out each of those, what their assembly options are, what magnetization possibilities you have, as well as any problems I may have come across when I was assembling. And then at the very end, I have the older versions of most of the models so that you can see how they have transformed in this new version of themselves. Alright, let's look at the models in the order I think players new to modeling should assemble them in, starting with the Cadian shock troops. There are 2 identical sprues, so 10 men and women on each sprue, so 20 guardsmen altogether once you have it all assembled. It is a very simple task to make each one look like their own individual because these are not single post models with respect to their heads and their arms, all the way up to the shoulder. This is what the sergeant would look like. There are more than enough heads to choose from for your 2 sergeants. And there are female heads and male heads, so you can choose whichever one you want. There isn't any female or male bodies. They're all in the same armor, so you just choose accordingly. Both of my sergeants are equipped with the drum-fed autogun as opposed to the las pistol and chain sword option. So you will get extra weapons you will get a whole lot of extra weapons, except for the special or heavy weapons. You only get 1 of each of those in each 10-man group, so 2 of each altogether in this 20-man group, but it would have been nice if you got 4 altogether, because the rules say that you could have, for example, up to 2 plasma guns in a unit of 10, but on the sprue there's only 1 plasma gun. That isn't to say that you won't, at least in this kit, be able to find more, because you will. And the Cadian command squad. And I think I counted at least 26 extra heads after all 20 men were assembled. So you do have an awful lot of options. And you also have a little bit of bits and bobs, like sandbags and a couple knives and a shovel to further differentiate them from each other. So the guy with the Vox caster originally looks like this. There's really no reason not to put him in your group because it doesn't cost anything extra to give it to him and he doesn't lose his weapon. So why not put a Vox caster in every unit that you have? You only get 1 in a unit of 10. You only need 1 in a unit of 10. This is the arm that he was given, but I didn't want them to be exactly the same, so I took a random arm that I wasn't using for your commander, but I decided not to make it for your commander, and I gave it to my Voxcaster instead, with a guy who's yelling about what he heard on the Vox. Of course, it makes sense, so that's why I did it. So the Cadian command squad could also be the platoon command squad. They're all just guardsmen with the exact same weapons, so I'm assuming the platoon command squad is the same as the Cadian command squad. She is a Cadian commander. There are more than enough command heads to choose from, guys and girls. And she is wielding, at the moment, a bolt pistol and a power sword. I could add those from her original las pistol and chain sword without any cost. She also could be using a plasma pistol and or power fist, but those cost extra, so I decided not to go with those, but those are an option for her if you so want. Also, she's got a couple different ways that you can assemble her foot, either on a pile of rocks or on this open sandbag. This one is one you have to be a little bit more careful assembling. I actually used a pair of gentle reverse tweezers to keep it in position while it was drying, because it will want to start slowly moving downward if you don't keep it in position either with your hands or with a nice pair of reverse tweezers. Also, even though the instruction guide does say to attach the standard and then the gun, I would suggest the other way around, because the gun has a very particular place, and if you attach the standard in the wrong position, basically, then the gun is harder to attach. You do not need to have the standard. You can take the las gun off him as well as the standard off him and replace him with either a flamer, a grenade launcher, a melta gun, or a plasma gun. But I was quite content with the las gun and standard. I like the effect of the standard, and notably, not only is there special abilities for most of these things, but there are also stratagems involved with most of these things, so you want to consider that when you're deciding what model or how you want to build your model. It does, however, mean that I have an extra flamer, grenade launcher, melta gun, and plasma gun to equip one of my guardsmen with, if should I have wanted to. Okay, so this is a fellow wielding a las gun and a metapack, and he's got even the little stretcher on his back. So there is no other weapon options for this. This is just how he's assembled. The only difference is that you can either have him with his fist at his side, you know, walking, marching, and his weapon on the back where this little piece goes. Or you can have it as I have it, with him holding his las gun rather willy-nilly over his back. It's been a long walk, that's all. This one is a much fancier looking Vox caster as opposed to this guy. She's wielding a las pistol instead of a las gun. I chose the female head with las pistol up in the air. The other guy is a male head, also with the headphones on, but he's basically holding his hand up to his headphone. So I still have that as an extra piece, which is always nice. Alright, and then this one is basically just a regular guy in with them. I gave him a bit of spunk because there was a guy with a cigar in his mouth. So I was like, yeah, that sounds like a guy who would be wielding a big old plasma gun. I like him. Let's see, originally he had a las pistol and a chainsword, but I changed it up because he could wield either a flamer, a grenade launcher, a melta gun, or a plasma gun, and I chose him to wield the plasma gun. That means that for this build I have all of those extra. If I did choose the las pistol and chainsword, though, that is another plasma gun for my shock troops. The field ordnance battery, which are 2 guns. They are identical with respect to both their guns and their carriages. It's just their crew, really, that is different. When you're assembling it, you have 3 options for the gunner, I guess would be his name. You have this fellow with whichever head you choose. You have this fellow. The hands to the wrist is attached to this piece. So it's up to you whether you want to attach to the wrist or not. And of course, whatever head you choose is more than enough heads. There is a third option to not have a gunner sitting on there at all and just have the handles attached to the battery. Now there are 3 weapon choices. This one is the heavy las cannon once fully assembled. This sits on the ground once this weapon is in place. You do have to decide how you want it oriented. But this sits on the ground once it's in place. Of course, you could glue it all in if you weren't going to change out the guns, but I'm just showing you what it would look like if you were to change out the gun. You do want to put this properly in place to glue this part to this part to that part, okay? If you're going to change out the gun, you're going to need to take these pieces off, because the other gun, which is the bombast field gun, needs these 2 pieces. They use the same shield, which is this shield. This shield can be pushed in without magnetization required. Can just be pushed into place. The missile launcher uses an alternate shield, which also can be put into place, and it actually slots into here and stays there. No problem once you've assembled it. You get to move them up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. No need to glue. There's several places that it say you don't need to glue, and I would suggest that you don't, because then you wouldn't be able to move your guy up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down for no good reason. This piece right here acts as a nice counterweight for when you're laying your gun in place. But the field gun, as you can see, it doesn't exactly want to stay in place. See, I would suggest you either put a weight on it right here to hide in that area, or even better, you attach a magnet right to this spot right here that will attach to a magnet hiding in there. And that would be not visible and still keep your gun in place. So that's a pretty straightforward magnetization. There's 2 guns of each kind. So 2 of these field guns, 2 of these las guns, and 2 of these rocket launchers, as well as 2 of each of the shields, so you can build your battery any way that you want. Now, to the crew, we have 1 commander looking like this. He's got a couple different options for wielding his little pair of binoculars. He's supposed to be standing on an ammunition crate and pointing the way. Here's the other one. And again, there's more than enough heads to choose from. There is only 1 fist up, but there's a couple things that you can be holding. I decided that the person would be holding, and it attaches at the hand, by the way, at the wrist. I decided to be holding a timer, but you could also be holding a sheet of papers looking through notes. All right, this guy took a little bit of work to get me happy with the positioning of his hands. Wielding a las gun, he could instead be wielding a piece of ammunition. All right, and then lastly, there is this guy. This guy alternatively could have been the one that is covering his ears, but I like this pose. And it's very easy to make his head tilt downwards so he's looking inside the box. I do see me putting him in random places whenever I can, because I just love the idea of him just being off in the distance doing something. So I'm never going to glue him in place, so that I always have this guy in the distance looking into this ammo crate. Well, we got ammo crates that are open and ammo crates that are closed, 2 of each. So 1, I decided I would have it open further so you can see the ammo inside. And there's 2 of each ammo as well. And 1, I had it so that I oriented it so that it would be perfect in his little hand. So it's a little bit more closed. And you can see that the ammunition is inside. You get double of these, and you could glue them inside, but I don't really see any need to, since you could just pop them inside and take them out again. This would be the ammo for a heavy las gun. This would be for the field gun. And then somewhere around here is also little rockets for the rocket launcher. The Sentinel is my favorite. This can be a armored Sentinel or a scout Sentinel, and they're physically in appearance, there's only 1 difference. This one being the scout, you can see the pilot, it has these bars on top, and then if you want to turn it into a armored vehicle, now it's the armored Sentinel. Scout Sentinel. Armored Sentinel. Okay, so all you have to do this is get this top piece, put this little piece on, that's a separate piece, and then glue the side pieces so that they line up with the top piece. It's very straightforward. I love that I could do that. I also do not have this piece on yet so that I can get to the pilot. I also don't have this front piece on. You can, let me just take off you and take off you and take off you. Basically at this point, this little piece with the 3 lines goes on after the front piece. Okay. And the front piece is 2 pieces that you just can glue together. And then you attach it like this. But as you can see, you can nice and carefully keep the front piece not glued. Get under. Not glued until after you have it painted. So I added the front piece, placed her top torso with her arms freshly glued in place, and then bent her arms down while the glue was still fresh until she was in the proper position. And then after she was dried in that position, I took the piece off again. Okay, so you can do all of this. Just be very careful. This is a complex piece. It's going to take some time. There are a bunch of different choices here. I just chose the generic one so that it didn't matter what kind of weapon I had. Some of them are based on ammunition, so I chose the one that was not based on ammunition. And then we have this one, which I don't particularly care if there's a hole left. If I choose not to use the Hunter Missile for an extra 5 points, then I just have that. You could use one of these pieces on there so you don't have that hole, but I don't see, once it's all painted, I don't see that really being an issue. Or you could just use the Hunter Missile, and as you can see, you don't need to glue it or magnetize it. It just pops right in, and that is the same for this, and that is the same for this. There is no need to magnetize nor glue all of the various pieces. Every piece on this side, which is a rocket launcher, a heavy flamer, a multi... No, that's the las gun. That is the multi-laser, a plasma gun, and lastly, the auto cannon. All right, each one of these fits on just by plugging in. Now, you certainly could cut some of this off, enough worth of 2 magnets off, and then attach a magnet inside each of them and a magnet there, but I don't know. I feel like I just put it on and off again. But if you find yours to loosen up over time, well, you could actually put some liquid, you could put some clear paint in it, and then it would no longer be loose. Or you can magnetize, whatever you want. But I'm happy not having to magnetize. And then here, on this side, we have 2 options that are just pure aesthetics. Where's the option? There's one of the options. I'm not certain what that is. Is that, I don't know, smoke grenades? I'm not sure. It's completely for looks, not for function in terms of game. Or you can have this big light, or you can have the chainsaw. And the only 2 choices that you make that would cost you extra is the chainsaw and the hunter killer missiles. And that's all of them. All right, now the old guys. Previous. Oh, look at the little chainsaw or chainsaw. Oh, that is a bigger hunter missile. Yeah. And missile launcher. All right. Come here. Come here. So, there is a size difference between the 2 Sentinels. Definite size difference. Is he really on the base that he's supposed to be on? I guess. Anyway. He's got this little counterweight tail. Can you imagine? He's just wagging his tail as he's plowing down people. Okay. Get out of the way. Stop focusing on them. Oh, I've got an example of a banner bearer. Oh, yeah. Nice fancy banner. Versus our new banner bearer. So they still have the heavy weapons team separate from the ordnance battery. So this is not the same thing, but I just thought I would show you bit of a size difference between the battery and the little heavy weapons teams. Just a little bit more like a human and anatomically, I think. And Voxcaster. And if you're still with me, you may have probably noticed a bit of weird shininess on some of the bases. Yeah, I spilled plastic glue. I should not have put my plastic glue bottle on something that was not a table. I regret it very deeply. Don't be like me. Or maybe just use Games Workshop's plastic glue with the needle nose. Needle nose is very nice for many reasons. No spilling. Right, the one last thing is on my fingers is actually Caliban green. I guess an old air bottle since they don't come in this size anymore. Caliban green, in case you were wondering what it looked like. Alright, I will catch you in the next one. Bye, and in the future there will be absolutely more paint videos. I have been neglecting all my models by assembling more models. But in the future there will be more paint videos, so I hope you enjoy that and subscribe if you want to see them. Okay, bye. I'm thinking the next thing that I will be painting, there's so many things I have to paint, but I just noticed that this standard might be really intimidating for anyone who wants to paint a flag like this. So I'll make certain to do a video on how to paint this flag. And therefore you could take that, the knowledge of how to paint this flag, and spread it out to how to paint any flag that has such designs on it. The designs certainly make it easier. Then, believe me, it's certainly easier to paint these designs than it is just to paint something onto the flag that would be bare. But there's nice and easy ways to do it and ways that would make it more difficult for yourself. So I think I'll share my knowledge. Hint, hint, it's going to involve some flow improver.